that's another like 30 minutes or so. Or even 40. So I'm looking at us possibly finishing actually. So maybe fine. If we take 1 hour, this one was meant to take 45 minutes. We are going forward on resolutions. So, these days are part of well, yeah, this one we're going to keep going down. Start winding up. We go until 5. Then from 5 we do the presentation maybe at 12:40. And assuming this one is over by 12:15, that plenary should take about 5 minutes. Yeah, this is it. Then we are at 3, let's say 3:33 now. So this one, that's most likely.
highly globalized world, competition is stifling by the second. Corporations are scrambling for the finest talent, nations are positioning for advantage, and people fight to thrive. Education is the ultimate advantage. No, the ultimate disadvantage.
If somebody denies you education, they have denied you everything. But if somebody gives you education, they have given you everything except a ticket to heaven.
In Kenya, everything is at stake for thousands of students unable to raise money for their education. Will they become the next victims of an economic dispensation that is swallowing the unprepared?
My father passed away when I was in standard 7, so I did not have somebody that could support to further my studies. So after 18 years, when I heard the former president, Mwai Kibaki, declaring free secondary, I felt an urge to join secondary. I used to drop out of school probably 1 year to look for the upkeep of my family first.
In Kijabe, I came in 2015. So I used to work like a housekeeper. And then that's where I came to my dream to join School of Nursing. And I didn't even have any money to join the school. And the school fees was 263,800. And I used to be paid only like 12,000. So I was wondering, where will I get money?
You know, by the time I finished my secondary school education, I had a balance of almost 100,000. So I had to work so that I can pay the balance. In fact, I was working at a workshop whereby I was paid 200 shillings per day. So I used to save that money to reduce the fee balance that I had.
I had fee challenges because I had just joined KU and I was thinking of calling off my studies.
The vision to sustain and improve the historical advantage that Kenya has enjoyed over the years is fueled by continuous development of human capital. The progress of individuals like Isaac, Boaz, Samson, Callistus, and millions of others like them. The vision has, through the history of our nationhood, been shouldered by the Higher Education Loans Board, HELB, a state corporation whose mandate is to source for funds and provide loans, scholarships, and bursaries to Kenyans studying in recognized institutions of higher learning.
The vision of HELB is to be able to finance everyone that is seeking a loan to advance themselves by way of higher education.
Over the years, transition from secondary to tertiary education has greatly improved. In addition, over 1,500 TVET colleges have been established in the country over the past decade. These developments have led to increased demand for higher education finance, with government financing fully stretched.
We have a funding gap of about 4.9 billion. If actually we don't get a form of financial intervention, this year only, we are looking at about 94,000 students who have already expressed interest in terms of being funded, going without any funding for this year.
At the Higher Education Loans Board, the thought of young people missing out on education, the possibility of lives being wasted and families getting trapped in a vicious cycle, has led us to reimagine our vision of universal financing for higher education in Kenya. Since 2013, we have mobilized 1.5 billion shillings from 40 partners who share in this vision.
So we started with a small partner fund of USAID, and we were trying to get into a space that we have never been before, that is educating the healthcare workers, that is the nurses, who are, work behind the doctors, because for every doctor you require about, 10 nurses.
Help of these partners, we have made it possible for over 50,000 more students to attain higher education over the past 9 years. Our resource mobilization initiatives target specific economic sectors guided by various economic policies. Some of the sectors for which we have mobilized resources include health, maritime, legal, communication, finance, engineering, and water and sanitation. In the health sector, Afya Elimu Fund was set up to increase the number of middle-level health workers in the country.
These students, once they graduate, they're available, as I've said, to provide services for health work, for the health services in some of the remote areas. Talking about the northern frontier, the coastal region, where really we have had shortages for a long time in the country. And so with their presence there, it has really helped, especially when it came to COVID. We saw a demand for health workforce in some of these regions, and the pool was already available. The health workers who had graduated from Afya Elimu were already available.
In addition to Afya Elimu Fund, medical training institutions are also partnering with us, establishing funds that enable a smooth academic journey for their students.
When we started the college in 2012, we already had a problem knowing that the community we're in might not be able to access or be able to come to this college. So when we made help in 2014, for us it was connection the first time, and we made the details. And I remember the following year when we had our graduation, we invited them to come and we handed them a check of 1.2 million shillings. And from that humble beginning, right now we have, I would say, a portfolio with the help of about 24 million shillings, which we are hoping that in that revolving fund, it will be able to help more and more students.
We looked at ways where we can still have these economically challenged students and still meet their obligation in terms of settling the school fees, because it's needed. We have to give them and use money to train them. So we sought help with help, and so far so good. So many students have benefited from the fund, and we can only look forward for a brighter future, brighter partnership.
We partnered with the Kenya Maritime Authority to set up the Maritime Education and Training Scheme, or METS Fund, a loan product covering academic, proficiency, and competency courses. Together, we are empowering a pool of local experts for the blue economy.
To achieve this national goal, we must undertake a lot of partnerships. There are government structures that have been in place, and one of the government structure under training is creation of HELP, which is handling the different capacity building in the country in different ways. And the maritime aspect was not covered under that program. So we suddenly decided that for us to support Kenyans who are willing, who have the passion, who have the drive to enter into maritime sector job and under the maritime sector functions, then we need to create a kitty, if you call it, that people can apply for loans in those, go for training and train. Once they get jobs, just like the other part of LP in the industry, repay that kind of loan so that it becomes available, helpful to the Kenyans.
We aspired to be able to place the blue economy where it's on self-drive, light a fire that can never be put off. And I think we are getting there. That, when you begin to get to see the sector getting integrated into our national economic plans, when you begin to see programs that deliberately target to develop the sector, then you begin to see that the sky is the limit.
When help came, when it came for validation, help really helped so many people to validate their documents.
Kenya School of Law Tuition Loan supports students pursuing their advocates training program, while law students sitting for their bar examinations for the first time can apply for the HELB Bar Examination Loan, rolled out in partnership with the Council of Legal Education, CLE.
So we are in year 1 of implementation, and we had 163 students who benefited. Because of that, there was a big reduction in the number of students who defer. Usually, when they apply, we send them admission letters, which have the fees that they need to pay, and we've been getting in the past a number of students that end up saying I have to defer because I can't afford the fees. This year, almost all of them were able to register, so there was only a tiny amount who weren't able to register because of fees.
Our resource mobilization initiatives for the engineering students help increase national productivity by producing market-ready technicians and stimulating entrepreneurship.
Formal education is really well established in Kenya, with many universities that have cropped up all over Kenya. Technical education, on the other hand, is not available so well. And if you go back to countries like Germany and Austria, they have a technical program where...
Guys who are outside, we are kindly requesting that we come back in so that then we can finalize.
And we have basically taken that example and tried...
The team that is outside, we are requesting that we resume.
To train young underprivileged kids to become technically efficient. And in this way, by giving them their skills, they can go out and earn a living into the market.
We have about 60% of our students get employed directly in the course they had studied. Then maybe 20%, since we insist on entrepreneurship, they start small businesses, and that helps them to be able to...
Sense of reliable systems of fair disbursement and transparent financial reporting, funds have been lost to inefficiencies and misappropriation, while the needs of students are not...
Our esteemed delegates, we are requesting that we resume because time is not...
Now partnering with the higher...
So guys who are outside, we are requesting that we resume.
Funds, making HELB a central distribution point.
We have created this fund through some legislation. So there is legislation that guides this particular fund. And we have agreed that we put in 20 million every year. We want this fund to grow up to 500 million.
We realize that some students get inadequate allocations. So if a student wanted 60,000, is then looking at the available resources and the evaluation, the student then gets only 30 or 35,000, or even 37 for that matter. The needs of that student for accommodation, for feeding, and other books and other things is much more than that. So we thought if we could top up a little as a county through the HELB program, and that's why we have collaborated with the HELB program. Through that program, we can be able to enhance the loan available.
As counties, we don't have enough capacity, especially in assessing the needs that we have within the community. As much as we are giving bursaries to students in high school and even in colleges, we have found it a bit challenging.
Because of the budgetary constraints at the national level, the gap will always be there. Yeah, because priorities are many, especially at the national level. I realized that. That's why, as a county, we decided to bridge the gap. And I'm sure that if all counties, the 47, followed my example, then obviously that gap will be bridged. You can see Kakamega has put in 120 million. If all counties were to put in 120 million, those will be a lot of over 5 billion Kenya shillings. And if you have 5 billion at your disposal, definitely so many students, that gap, you will have bridged that gap.
We partner with corporations, trusts, and foundations in an ecosystem of shared value. ABSA, Standard Chartered Bank, Family Bank, and I&M have all helped us expand opportunities in higher education.
Each corporate, each company looks at it and say, how can I give back? How can I serve the market? Because the more you serve the market, the better your environment becomes. You know, we don't need unemployment in Kenya, and corporate world has to get involved.
The stories and experience of our beneficiaries over the past 26 years have been the building blocks of a bigger, brighter promise for generations ahead.
The main problem, I knew it was in secondary level. But the main thing that actually motivated me, through media, I used to listen to news. They were advertising for the support of HELP. I knew it was majorly in secondary. When I reach in a university or a college, I could be released, and actually it was done. So I was hopeful I could finish, however late.
I'm the first person to join college in my family, so I'm proud of it. I'm going to change the story of my family. The school has been supporting me through CHPF funds, and I applied for help. I got help 3 times now, and it has been of help to me till now.
So now, after I joined the school, I heard about help. I applied the first time. That's now where I saw light of finishing school. So I was helped by help.
The help loan imesaidia sana, sio karo tu, hata kwa mitihani. No one can defer or have an excuse of money because help has catered everything, the entire module.
Rather than one struggling or putting the academics to a pause so that they could go seek for the funds to come back, receipt, or sit down for the exams, then CLE helping with the by-examination funds has been the best way to make it easier for us to finish in due time. Partly it's also played a role into molding me into who I am currently in my line of profession, that being that it saw me through campus when I was undertaking my law studies, and even now through my post-diploma here at KSL. I'm grateful because it also seen me through my bar exams.
I was working as a registered nurse in the emergency department. Then I felt like I should go back to school and do a specialty, of which I did it in 2019. After 10 years, graduating from a diploma course, now I was going for a higher diploma, 2019 April. Then when I came back after graduation, now they saw that I'm capable of doing it. Then I was given some responsibility to be the deputy in charge of this department.
Today, we have a well-developed debt management infrastructure enhanced by strategic partnerships, big data, and backed by law, ensuring optimum repayment of loans, diaspora collections, informal sector management, and even prosecution if necessary. We are present countrywide through 28 Huduma centers and have experience working with both local and international funders.
If you know anything about HELP, you know they've been there for years. They've done this for years. They have a track record for years about administering this sort of a fund. And therefore, for the Council of Legal Education Fund to be able to benefit from that sort of sustainability and stability from HELP is invaluable to us. I would want to assume that any beneficiary of the fund would feel the responsibility to pay back for purposes of ensuring that the person that comes after you 5 or 10 years would be able to find something there.
HELP has enabled the country to sustain education. Funders need to channel their funds through an organized institution that is capable of administering the fund and also allow for recovery of loan to enable new applicants and more Kenyans to access medical education.
Employers work in very close partnership with HELB. We are represented on the HELB board. I sit on the HELB board. And we ensure that people who are working in the formal sector repay the loans that they get from HELB. The employers facilitate that. It's a deduction that is done on the payroll level. And there's also a portal where employers can register voluntarily and therefore make sure that the loans are being repaid.
From the experience of decades of higher education financing, we offer high-value partnership that includes transparent online application, automated selection criteria, superior recovery mechanism, joint resource mobilization, information sharing, a wide branch network, and contact center, portfolio protection, governance structure, and data sharing.
The future for our organization is bright in terms of internal mechanisms. We are continuously improving. We have invested heavily on IT. We have a call center so that you don't have to come to anniversary towers. You know, those queues you used to see. The mode of payment, we have basically factored every possible mode of payment, whether you are within the country or outside the country.
So with me being here, I'm able to sensitize the students through the machine learning programs in conjunction with the high schools and institutions of higher learning such as Kilifi KMTC and Pwani University and the technical colleges here.
Check. Today, a big financing gap stands between many young Kenyans and their dreams.
Right.
In the nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
But
one big round of applause for the deans and registrars who finished right on time and are already here with us. Asante sana. Ile saida usikii makofi huko kuna wivu ni sawa. We let them be. Let's settle down real quick. Yeah, the team from finance, we can see that they're just arriving. They were the last to finish, so they will come last. We will be very fair to them. All right, so we have been sitting for a while. Please stand up for just 1 minute. Please stand up for just 1 minute. 1 minute. Let's stand up. Everybody, let's stand up. All right, it is this simple. Okay? May I have your attention? Great, thank you. So I just say heads down and heads up. Heads down and heads up. Now, here's the thing. Every time you bring your head up, try to look a different direction, okay? So for example, heads down, heads up. Heads down, heads up. Heads down, heads up. So many different random directions. Now, you get that. Let me add another layer. So if you should put your head up, you look a certain direction. Heads down, heads up. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So because my eyes locked with the CEO, we both need to sit down. And this is how I live. I'd like to invite the team from, the deans and registrars. They're going to start us off, and their presentation begins now. Our rapporteurs are ready, right? Asante. Karibu.
Is it going to be screened?
Sorry?
Is it going to be projected?
You have a presentation?
Yes.
You've given it?
Yes, actually it is being projected shortly.
Technical team, is that presentation ready? If you can hear me, put the present. Okay, great. Let's start it off. It's there already. You can use that screen.
All protocols observed. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we have been given the privilege to present on behalf of the deans of students and the registrars. And this is myself, Professor Obelgor Christopher, the Dean of Students Joost, and my colleague, Majore Nyaga, from Dedan Kimathi University of Technology. Just for you to see properly, I want all the deans to stand up and the registrars. The deans of students. Yes, so this is the team that I've given us this privilege. You can sit down. We have divided duty. I'll present the first part or the first section, and then my colleague, Majore, will present the next question. So we had 2 questions to debate about, and there was a lot of interaction and very many ideas that came forward, and they are as follows. The first part was dealing with the issue of equality versus equity. So which way do we go in terms of health funding? Should we go for equality or should we go for equity? So therefore, in our discussions, the issue was that due to the funding constraints being experienced, should help support many students with little fundings or fewer students with sufficient funds? So which way should we go? Next page, please. So there are various reasons that were given. One, that in order for us to really support the students to graduation, then possibly we need to give little money.
We will compensate your time. We're just moving this slightly at the request of some members. Technical team, is this fine?
Yes, so the point was that should we go for equity or equality? And therefore in the debate, the first part was that if we look at what is going on, if we really want students to graduate, then we need to give few of them good funding so that this can support them throughout up to graduation. So that was one point. The other one was that we may need to identify vulnerable students through the Office of the Dean of Students and other structures within the university so that we can actually rank those students who are needy and therefore support them throughout. The other point was the element of the location of the university, to the extent that possibly universities which are located in towns or cities, probably their challenges are different compared to students or universities in the rural setting. So therefore there was a feeling that possibly those in the urban centers or towns would be given more funds. Next, please. Then another point is that students, when we give them help loan, some of the students are actually responsible even to other siblings which are still either in secondary or primary schools. So there's an element of the funds being given to the students from help also being siphoned or flowing down to help others. And therefore, this may even hinder their graduation. So therefore, that was a question mark there. And then the other issue was that also some of the students used the same amount of money that they have been given to actually help family members. And therefore, this brings the element of integrity, because the money is being given to help the student in terms of their studies. And yet, the same money They are using it because of their vulnerability to actually help others. So therefore, this brings a very tricky situation. Then a very strong point in terms of debate came out that actually it could be better if we give many students whatever amount is allocated, so that as they use this money and meet other challenges along the way, they could sort out those challenges in spite of the little that they are given. So therefore, the element of many but little came up very strongly. That we target as many students, almost all students who want to get help money, but we give them little to start them off so that as they continue, if there are challenges, they can get support from different sources and different collaborators. Then in that particular context also, we need to identify students who are vulnerable and students who are needy. And if possible, also go to the extent of which courses are they doing, so that the selection should not be just on vulnerability and a need, but also which course. Because the point is that there are some students who are doing science-related courses like medicine, engineering, which probably are more expensive in terms of expenses that are required compared to those who are doing humanities. So therefore, this could also be considered as a point. Then there are also other issues that came, including the fact that even members of staff could also be engaged, even though the students have been given little, but members of staff and any other supporter would also be engaged to help students or train them in such a way that they can supplement whatever little they have been given with the other sources that are likely. In conclusion, it was concluded with a resolution from the team that we go for many but little, meaning we support as many students as possible with help money, however little it is, so that they can get support from elsewhere. So this was the conclusion of the first part. At this moment, I'm going to invite my able colleague to also address the second point. So, Madam, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, my able presenter who has presented on the part of the findings from the deans and registrars from their discussions. I want to move on to the second part of the question, which was asking, or rather we were looking at how can universities then help enhance collaboration for efficiency in service delivery. The team started by applauding the good relationship and we have enjoyed with help, and particularly through the regional relationship officers who have always come very hardy into our questions anytime we call them. And therefore, we said that one of the ways of enhancing this collaboration is by creating a portal where all universities can update data for their graduates. People agreed that there are many, we were told here about the 6 government agencies that collaborate with universities or among themselves to promote the university education, and that would reduce the cases of duplication of data, especially on transfers, on deaths, on suspension of students, so that we are all feeding from the same database in relation to students. It was also felt that HELP can try to visit the universities in their location as many times as possible. We are aware of the constraints of resources, but members felt that rather than the many days that help takes in an institution, you could take fewer, but ensure that you do a visit every semester, because by so doing, you are able to handle a number of issues that arise from among the students. Also, universities were challenged to invite help. It was cited that in one university, help is able to visit them every semester because they write through the dean or through the offices to request help to visit them. And therefore, it was also agreed that if you have a pressing need, we could always do a write-up to help and invite them to come and address those issues within Kathone in our universities. There was also need to do centralization with centralized data, so as we can reduce the back and forth, and this would mean we have a central database where we can all feed and get information which can help our institutions to run smoothly. It was also, somebody mentioned about retooling of the help staff, but we were told that something is being done internally to ensure that the information they share at the help boss tally with whatever information we receive from the support, the relationship officers that report to the universities or assist the universities in their day-to-day operations. Again, there is also the list of beneficiaries should be communicated to the relevant offices in the universities so that this one was to help, the help to identify students who have been allocated funds that may not be needed. Probably there are those who have been allocated up to 60, probably receiving a bursary. They are also receiving a lot more support from other quarters, and therefore they may not be deserving help, like probably someone who has been left out who may be deserving more. So by having that list of beneficiaries, the universities can assist help in identification of the very needy students, and of course even help them to weed out those who may not be as needy as may be required. Again, the role of the persons dealing with students' affairs is a calling. We were reminded that anybody dealing with students is a calling, and therefore is a praise of integrity, and it is not negotiable. So I think that's what we did, and we said finally the universities can also assist in financial literacy so that we are able to move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. They did very well and within time. And our next group, each group has 15 minutes, time with a timer. Collins, which is our next group? Student leaders. Where's the presenter? All right, so you have 15 minutes, which begins now. Is your presentation with the team at the back? You have it here. All right, you have 15 minutes and I will be showing you. Finance, please get ready and have your presentation loaded by the technical team at the back. Asante, karibu.
Once again, good evening. My name is Dennis Odero from Egerton University, currently serving as the students' president. We had a meeting as the student leaders all over the university, 78 of them, and we have found that there are so many challenges that affect our comrades especially. In this whole forum, we are the focal point. We are the people who are we are really affected by this, the issues concerning help. So the first one was about the delay in help disbursement. We request that the help team, whenever we have such cases, that should be communicated in time. You heard what happened to Kibabi, is it Kibabi University? And even from me and the Dean of Students who is here, Dr. Mudema, we had to approach the university management so that they could allow our colleagues to do the exams, because there was a delay to disperse the help money. So we request, our suggestion is whenever there is a delay to disperse the help money, please communicate to the Dean of Students office in time so that they can plan in advance on how to approach the university management. Number two, we are told that there is a help strategic plan. We also wish that student leadership should be included in that, because like I've said, these are the people on the ground. They know what the students are going through. So whenever you have such plans, please include them so that they can also give their input. Another one, the communication. I've said about communication whenever there's a delay in help. We are told that the help is normally financed quarterly. Our request, our suggestion is, what if it can be funded once in financial year, so that the help can have the money, so that we don't expect these delays that normally comes when, say, the government has not funded help fully. And also, capitation. Normally, the average students receive 42,000 shillings per year. The cost of living has gone up, of course. We request that the average student should be given 60,000. All over you have seen the cost of living has gone up. So 42,000, Congress should pay school fees from the amount. Should also get his should also get the upkeep money from the same amount. It's so little. So we request that amount should be increased 60,000 than the current 62,000. The interest rate is 4% for those who are paying back the help. We request the amount, the rate should be reduced to 2%. We have been told that it's just 1 year, and then once, like for me, I'm finishing this semester. I've already finished. I'm going for attachment, so I'm supposed to start paying help next year. There are some colleagues who had some delays. They're in 4.1. They will not receive help because their time has already finished up, but they're supposed to pay that money from next year. You see, so we're requesting that period to start repayment of loans should be 2 years. 1 year is too soon for us. Kindly consider that also. The private university are requesting that the amount. There are some people who are doing courses that they normally have 3 semesters. So help comes in 2 semesters. So they normally only get money in 2 semesters. The other semester they don't get. So we reconsider them so that they get the money in the all 3 semesters. The waiver is at 80%. We request that to be done at 100%. Yes, it's 80% currently, but as comrades who we know how the economic situation is now, we request that to be 100%. I know the CEO is here; he's taking note of that. As I finish, to welcome my colleague, to also the allocation of help. I don't know which criteria is being used to see people who are needy and those who are not needy. Somebody said in our group discussion, somebody can be an orphan, but he is not needy. And somebody can have the 2 parents, but is needy. So we should consider that. We should not just base our allocation. If somebody is an orphan, then it automatically will get higher amount than the other. So those are our suggestions. I will invite my colleague to also give her part. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Okay, I'm Nancy from Kibabi University and a student leader. So in our discussion, we've discussed a lot, and one of the striking things was awareness. We are requesting for sensitization and financial literacy, especially for the first applicants. That is the first years, and also secondary school students be also sensitized, so that by the time they join campus or the time they are eligible to apply for loan, they already know what they are required of them and what they are expected. Then the other thing was communication, and here we request that every other time there is the communication that is done, like you are expected, in 72 hours you should receive your money. So we request you also had the interest, that you remind us, like a notification, you remind us on the interest that we are charged. Especially some of the student leaders said, like, they already forgot what they are expected to pay at the end of, to pay, or the interest that they are expected to return the loan with. Then the other thing was the TVET students, especially those in universities, the ones which were placed by the CUSIPs. So we were requesting that they be funded also, and their funding be prioritized. Then the other thing was to increase grace period for the period of loan repayment at least to 2 years after graduation. That one at least will give us a time to be able to organize ourselves, like put our things in order so that we are able to start repaying it. I think that is the last thing, and have a blessed day.
You're done? Okay, fantastic. They even donated time to finance. So, finance, karibu sana. Do you have a presentation that needs to come up? It's okay. It's not yet done. All right. Feel free to use that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is CPA Paul Gaido, student finance, Kisii University. Normally, we say that accountants know numbers, and here we are not presenting numbers, so we take a lot of time when it is numbers. But now that there are no numbers, I'll try as much as possible to be very fast. First, okay, but if I'm extremely fast, you throw me down. Yeah. First, on the positive areas that we identified is that we have been receiving immense support from HELB. The relationship officers have been supporting us very well, and we are grateful of that, and they keep up and continue with that spirit. Also, from the people who had attended the Mombasa Forum, they attested that there is quite a significant improvement from whatever the issues that they had raised in Mombasa Forum. On the challenges, I've said I'll be very fast. On the challenges, one of the main challenges that we identified arising in most of the universities is unallocated fund, and this as a result of disparities in identifiers. This arises because in most cases, in universities, we admit based on KCSE result strip, and the students normally don't have ID card. When they get ID card, they apply to help, and they apply with the admission letters. When they join us, then they also change their courses, their programs, and do interfaculty transfer, and have different. So one of the major disparities is because of disparities in registration numbers that help have, and us in the university not having the ID. And in this, we were recommending that if possible, we can have additional identifiers that can also be can be of help to us, so that we can be able to reach out, like phone numbers can be able to help us to reach out to the student. The KCSE index numbers, if they help get them and us, we have them, that one can also be an additional, not to substitute the existing one, but to enrich the existing one. On the issue of SMSs, we requested, because we've been having challenges, students coming to us when the money has not yet arrived. If it is possible that after disbursements, after 72 hours, the money, the SMS to be dispersed, to be sent to the student after the disbursement. Also, another issue that we are also requesting is that if there is a possibility of integrating our systems with HELB system. Majority of us have integrated our system with the bank. There would be no harm. Actually, it will enrich us in data sharing as HELB and university sharing. On some issues, because of some banks don't record the batch numbers and details, and the same bank account are receiving funds from various organizations. If it's possible where you send the money and you also email us you email us disbursement or advice that so that we can be able to fast track the process of allocating the money. And we also noted that there are also some few institutions where there is they noted that help take time to update the student account for the refunded money, especially those they are neutralized money. And it came out clearly that majority of us in the universities, we don't know the account that we are supposed to refer their neutralized money. Help will be communicating to us, and also we will be ensuring that all the parameters are included, including the ID numbers, as much as possible. And the universities were also urged, especially to work with the registrars, so that we can be able to update the student ID numbers, because the student ID numbers are the most commonly used ID numbers. Even after they leave the university, that will be the easiest thing to trace the student. Then I'll go directly to the questions that we are expected to answer. How can universities collaborate with HELP to bridge the gap, the funding gaps? One of the things that we realize is that there are students that are seen to be needy, but they get multiple funds from other government agencies like CDF, NGAF, the county money, and they end up having huge overpayment as a result of all these monies, including HELP. If HELP can work with the government institution and ensure that even disbursement of these funds comes through HELP, it will be very helpful, so that because HELP will not be able to, will not disperse to the same student money that will go to be overpayment, and that will help in having a little bit more money to disperse to other needed students. There was also a suggestion of targeted funding, where the university, they should help work with financial aid department within the universities, so that they can identify the really needed students. And also tracing of the graduate through the alumni programs of the university. Monitor and tracking, how can we monitor, track, and measure impact of HELP? One is the successful completion of the student. It's agreed that once you fund the student and they graduate, that is a successful case. If we can be able to monitor successful completion, that's well, which is very much impossible for us. Then we can also compare, as the university, the amount of money that we are receiving from HELP vis-a-vis from other agencies and from other sources. By that, a percentage of the amount that we are receiving from HELP is a way of showing the impact to the university. And we can also develop a feedback mechanism whereby we can be able to be giving feedback to HELP, both the students and the university, on the impact that the HELP has been able to give to us. Lastly, how can we accelerate loan repayment? First of all, we advise that if possible, that we can come up with a mechanism of all the university sharing their graduation list with HELP. By that, it will help the HELP to know the people who have already completed and start repayment immediately. Tracing employed graduates through alumni programs within the university. The alumni association within the university can be of help to help know where the graduates are. Another suggestion came is that now that HELP has come up with a measure of disbursing money with Safaricom through M-Pesa, and majority of the graduate goes to informal sector, Safaricom can also come hand in hand by maybe setting up a mechanism of auto-recovering the money from the Safaricom M-Pesa with the agreement, because if we can disperse the money to them automatically, we can also help those who are in the informal sector to recover the money automatically from them. And use of defaulters is also highly recommended, because at their time of application, every applicant is required to provide 2 guarantors. these guarantors can be of great help to provide the information of where about the student. And lastly, we also need to have financial literacy, especially to the existing student, which should be a collaboration between the universities and also help so that the existing student, as the student are applying home help, they should be aware that, first of all, this is a loan that they are taking and they will be required to repay. And as they exist, they should also need to be reminded that they have been receiving government money as loan, and immediately they leave, 1 year down the line, they are expected to start repayment. And this will be hard in because they now be aware. You have heard from the student leaders, they want to be reminded of the interest rate they are going to pay. So they don't have a problem when they are graduating to be reminded that, remember you took 180 from us, your repayment will start in July next year. May God bless you.
Very much. Thank you very much. And now can we give a round of applause for everyone who's made their presentations here this afternoon. All these teams have done a fantastic job, and they've helped us to, actually everyone delivered within the time that was provided for them. All right, so now we are coming to, the very last, the tail end of this session. It has been wonderful. We've done well, all of us, to be honest. And right now, I'd like to invite Mr. Simon Angote. Mr. Simon Angote is Senior Principal Lecturer and Head of the Center for Devolution Studies at the Kenya School of Government in Nairobi. We will have with him a conversation on emotional intelligence, supporting a deeper level of emotional well-being. That conversation will happen now, and then, all right? Okay, so maybe I just request the technical team to help us move this around a bit. It looks and feels dangerous, huh? Technical team, do we have someone back there? Is this fine? We're good? All right. So, a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Mr. Simon Angote with a conversation on emotional intelligence. We are finishing strong, right? Thank you. That's good. Mr. Ngote has just said that I lack emotional intelligence. So it seems I'm the one who needs this session the most. All right. I will be following keenly.
This guy is using intimidation on me. In my years on earth, I have learned to withstand intimidation from persons, from I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I know it's been a long day. Could you be upstanding, all of us? Be upstanding. Just be upstanding, make yourself happy. Just stretch your hands towards the front. Up. Front. Sikusema mwangusha, nyinyi mnaangusha. Juu pole pole. That's your right, eh? Yes. And then up. To the left. Up. Forward. How do you feel? How do you feel? How many, be seated. How many of you here are over 55 years? Over 55 years. And you are a man. Over 55 years and you are a man. Stand up. This group of persons above 55 years suffers. If you go to a wedding with your spouse and the wedding ends at 5 and you go home, she tends to think you are satisfied because you were at the wedding. They don't want to give you any more food. And if you come from communities that are patriarchal, you start clicking and saying, this woman does not respect me. Refuse to do that. If she does not want to cook, just whistle, go to the kitchen and cook for yourself a meal. And then she says, hey, it looks nice. Can I have a piece? Tell her, please go ahead. Don't make noise for her. You'll end up having ulcers and high blood pressure while she has her sleep. That is emotional intelligence. Be seated. But as CEO, I have been told, I was told when I was coming from the time you had given me. Now when I was being brought in, the person who ushered me told me 30 minutes. This one has now told me 20 minutes. I am not very sure whether another one is not going to tell me 5 minutes. But I can assure you that if I wanted to ignore you, I can talk for 2 hours and nobody will go out. But I'm not going to do that. Now, this is me. I'm Simon. I have been privileged to work for this country for the last 40 years. On 2nd of March, I began my 41st year of faithful service to our republic. Go to the next slide. I have been told to do this very quickly. I know you come from the teaching background. Objectives would never go with the words like understand, but I have used it here. Understanding of emotional intelligence. What is it? How emotional intelligence can support well-being. When I came in and the CEO and a team told me we have some faction, we are still finishing, I would have said, why do you then tell me to be here at 2:30? I said, this is a chance for me to do some work for myself. I'm going to Mandera on Monday. I took advantage to do my work in readiness for my trip to Mandera. And because there was nobody in the room where I was, I also dozed off for some 10 minutes. I really have enjoyed. So if you think, walifanya ni hakuna. Hiyo haiwezi kuletea shida mingi. That is understanding what it is. How does emotional intelligence support well-being? I have been on treatment for high blood pressure from 1997. I occasionally go to see doctors, but I go for a refill. I only go for the refill of my medicine. Because they have told me what my problem is. I don't bother. Kama nimechelewa. That's what if I'm late, even for a flight, I can negotiate so that I can pay the difference in price. Or if the price is too much, I just buy a new ticket. And I don't complain about at pesa yangu imeenda. Move on. I'm going to go through 21 slides. These slides are 46, but I'll do 21 only, so that I can fit in the time you have given me. Warren Bennis says emotional intelligence is more than any other factor, more than IQ, the intelligence quotient or expertise. It accounts for 85% to 90% of success at work. Emotional quotient, emotional quotient is a threshold competence. You need it, but it doesn't make you a star. Emotional intelligence can. You are in the workplace and you have officers and it's late. And you say, ladies and gentlemen, you know the PS really respects us. The PS has a lot of respect for our department. And for me personally, I owe it all to you guys. You guys do a wonderful job. Now the PS requires this report by close of business today. And that was supposed to be 5, but we have negotiated and the PS has said she or he has got a lot of confidence in us. Could we make it ready by 7 p.m.? Let's not betray the trust the PS has. And you have already massaged people's ego that they are excellent workers. And you're talking about higher authorities that can give, goodies. People work for you. And when they do it, you may not have the money. But say, you guys, now that you've worked for me on a Friday when everybody's supposed to have gone away, let's agree. We are 5. Each one of you will have an off from me next week. Who will take Monday? Who will take Tuesday, Wednesday? You have even things you're offering. And guys say, this is the guy, bwana. Who ndio jamaa. It's all about emotional intelligence. Next slide. I was told I can't use mine here. That in nikisema tu next. One great writer on emotional intelligence, Daniel Coleman, writes and says, if your emotional abilities aren't in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get far. Utakufa. How come a human being, a living human being, can go to a church and somebody with dirty feet puts their feet on their head and they pour water and say, the water that flows from my feet ni upako kutoka kwa Mungu, adikija kwako unajipaka hiyo maji mauchafu, and you do it? No doubt Robert Mugabe, the late Robert Bob Mugabe, president of Zimbabwe, said he has never gone to a church and seen a rich man or a man or woman who's gone to school roll down at ameshikwa na roho. It has to do with your emotional intelligence. How does a human being, normal, go to Mombasa to see a witch doctor and you have a PhD at anaenda kukupatia baraka? Unalala chini anaruka kwako, anachukua kuku mweusi anakukonga na kuku mweusi. This fellow lives in abject poverty. If he has such powers, why has he not changed his life? You must have very low emotional intelligence for you to submit to such things. Next, when you look at your personal profile, yourself, your personal profile, we are about the technical competence. Who are you? What did you study? You have technical competences. Then you have behavior and reputation. How do people see you? Who do they say you are? Huyu jamaa mwana kiongea hapa mbele ya kanisa hivi au hall hii, huyo jamaa akikutana na pombe huwa ni kama kesho inaenda kuisha. That is how people see you. Na huyu akiona binadamu jinsia tofauti, wewe ni mwanaume, ukimwona mwanamke akitembea hapa, macho yako tu ni mpaka salama huanza kutoka. Huyu jamaa hutokwa na mate akimwona mwanamke. Sana sana akimwona mikuu, akiwa na mikuu kama ya Michelin. Huyu wacha mambo ya Ukristo, anasemanga ni Mkristo. Pitisha hapa mwanamke utamuona. That's about your behavior and reputation. Rapport building. How does this person work with people? The gentleman who came to see me, you are meeting me for the first time today. How did I relate with you? You came and you were wondering whether I was going to shout at you. I've been waiting here. I said, are they ready? You told me they're just about to finish. How do you want me to do it? Do I make my laptop or are you to put on a flash disk? Let's go. Then ikifika hapo nimesikia ukiniita Simon, na mimi Simon nilikuwa naingia ndani. How do you relate with people? Are you the type of person? I used to read a book in school, in high school. I did a book called The Moon and Sixpence by Somerset Maugham. And the introductory paragraph, it was my Form 4 set book. The introductory paragraph in that book was about the main character, Giles Strickland. And they said in that book that when I first met Giles Strickland, I for a moment discerned that in him there was something out of the ordinary. You know, when I look at you, but when I sat with him, this was a scientist. He abandoned research to pursue art, you know, just painting. Left a professional wife and went and married mwanamke wale wanakuanga wa village, wanafunganga kitambaa ya kwenda nyuma. Because the professional wife was giving him a lot of problems. Akitaka kuchora, mama anamuingilia, let's go for dinner. And he wanted his peace. And when he went to the village and found the woman village, she gave him food. Muse, kunywa uchi? Ndio. Muse, nikuchomea mahindi? Hey. She gave him peace to paint. He was so happy with her that he abandoned his PhD wife and got a woman who did not know A, E, O, U. The question of rapport. You're looking at the question of visual impact, verbal impact. When you look at Simon, you know, people look at you and they think this is a man or woman who deserves respect, the way you look like. But we look at you at times and say, who is this? Those are issues about visual impact and verbal. The next slide. We have three critical things as we move into defining what emotional intelligence is. We have one, what we call the interpersonal and intrapersonal skills. As a person, unajua ushawahi kukaa hako kwa basi au kwa ndege, unatoka hako Nairobi 8 hours up to London or 8 hours up to Amsterdam, and next to you is a beautiful girl. She is not your relative. Unataka kumpeana CV yako na unaanza kufikiria, could she be an activist, a human rights activist? Nikimwambia labda atanichokosa, unamwangalia kama analala kidogo, you also pretend you want to sleep a bit on her to see whether she will push you away or not. It happens to us. You have a war inside you. You are a pastor. I used to drink, and I stopped drinking way back in 1992, stopped smoking in 1988. I am a church elder. But when I go away from people who know me, can I have a glass of wine? Can I have a glass of beer? When I move away from Christians who don't know me, and I have gone to a place like Malaysia, they have black Indians, and she winks at me. How many times do we have opportunities like those ones? Can I let her be, or do I take this chance here? That is a war inside you. Even when you go to the church and the pastor is preaching, wale ambao mngependa kuokoka, chukua tua. Inside you unaanza kusema, nikienda mbele watu wanaanza kunishangaa. Wacha nikae tu, wacha. Wenye kuokoka ni watu wenye shida nyingi. Mimi sina shida. That is about intra. No, that's about intra. You know, it's you, within you. You are disturbed internally. Then you have the issue of relations. You have the issue of how do you relate with people. When you see people, you define them by their religions, define them by their ethnicity, define them by their gender. You know, you are talking about building, for I'm building bridges that will take me back to you. Those of you who have ever had a strain, not in marriage, but boyfriend and girlfriend, if a girl drops you, don't commit suicide. Unachukwanga strategy. Unachukwanga strategy kama mmefunga shule na anatoka karibu na kwenu. Ukisikia ameenda kwa local shop, you run ahead of her. And then you come from the bush so that you meet her. Greet her and see how she treats you. Anakuambia, you know me, I was very annoyed. I say, I'm very sorry. It was never meant to hurt you. How? Yeah. How do you build relations with people? There are staff who come to your meetings and they are very annoyed with you. And they have heard stories saying, how do you begin with them? Ladies and gentlemen, I've invited you to this meeting. I want all of you to enjoy this meeting. I don't want anyone here to be burdened by this meeting. You are here because you have critical things to make in this meeting. You know, people start wondering, but I thought, this guy doesn't like me. How do you build relations? Building relationships, fostering open communication. The men who are here, the ones I talked about, 55 and above. Be careful. We don't go to hospital. That's why we contract, hernia. We have hernia. We have enlarged prostrates. These days, a lot of men also die of rheumatoids. Because we don't open up. We don't tell people. Open communication. We see men are more shy than yourselves, by the way. Men are more shy than women. Nimekupenda lakini kikuangalia naipanga tu clans kidogo hivi. I can't tell you, hey, hi. That headscarf is beautiful. Wow, this dress, where did you buy it? I was in Canada, then I bought this. Hey, this is a beautiful one. Yeah, everybody admires this. You seem to have very good choice of clothes. Not just the top, but even your skirt. See, I have struck a relationship with you. How do we do it? Managing self and others. How do you do it? You have people who come and they annoy it. Like today, there are a lot of Kenyans, after voting, they are still grieving, they are not watching TV. The people you are carrying on your shoulders now are waving at you like this behind the screens. Wanakula kwao, na wewe unaendelea maisha yako. Why do you have differences? There are people here, supporters of Arsenal. Arsenali mko wapi? Arsenali ni kama ndovu anapanda muti akikaribia ukingoni kwa anaanguka. Playing beautiful football, but very, very poor finishing kick. How? Now, for example, if I use that example, there are people here, when you talk about Arsenal, they can kill you. There are young people who voted for the first time, and they were told UDA was going to deliver manna. Even up to now, when people say this is not happening, they are saying tomorrow is even going to be better. Muwape time. You have no experience with them, so how can you be saying they are going to give you a better tomorrow? But that is who they are. How do you deal with the loyalists who can be very bitter and make it very personal? Managing self and others. The conflict within yourself and the conflict among people. Next slide. Now we have what we call technical, emotional, and social competencies. You do medicine, that is your technical competence. It's unexpected. It allows you to get, for example, into the job market or where you are required to be. Technical competence. You have emotional competence, the ability. Like I have come here. People seeing it's approaching 6. They don't want to stay here for a long time. Some want to go back to Nairobi. The ability to read, to understand, and interact with other people is what makes the difference in the long term. Who am I meeting here? What don't they like? You don't go to a crowd and talk negatively about a people's religion. You don't talk negatively about a people's culture. They will not allow you. You don't go to a crowd of people and talk about their political philosophy. But I see I was recently in Mombasa, and I was meeting the governor of Bomet with all his ministers and all MCS from Bomet. How can you go there and talk negatively about William Ruto? You must be a fool. How can you go there and talk about Azimio? You must be. If you talk about Azimio, you must say negative things when you are there. Yeah, that's they say this guy belongs to our camp. You don't go to a congregation or a meeting of Muslims and talk about our Jesus Christ, the values we cherish. They will block themselves. This is what emotional intelligence is all about. The ability to understand and interact with people. Who are they? What could they be sensitive to? What can I not say here? Then you have what is called social intelligence or social competence. The ability to understand others and act wisely. If you're a Kenyan and you go to a country like Korea, a man, and you greet a woman, you can't be repatriated because it's social harassment. You go to an Islamic country and you are forcing a woman to greet your hands. You want to greet her. It's not acceptable. Are there any people from Bungoma? Yes, wa Tongareni. Watu wa Tongareni wako hapa. Papa, wame Bungoma. Mubugusu. Papa, hao ni watu wa Papua Roma. Unajua Papua Roma? Papua Roma ni nani? Weta. In Bungoma, we have very strong cultural beliefs. Even if you are a Christian, when it comes to circumcision, the child must go through those rites. So how do you go to Bungoma and talk negatively about the Bukusu culture, their circumcision? It's what defines them. How do you come to a Christian? Hii kanisa ya Pastor Mackenzie. Kule watu wanaokoka, wanasukuma mapepo. Si uliona wanatoa mapepo ya mtomoni, wanatoa makabasi kwa watu. How do you do it? How do you read the mood of the people? Unasikianga watu ukienda kwa siasa, mnanielewa? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what your people saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I speaking to somebody? That's what the Bible is saying. They have not read the mood. Kanisa mbona mko dal? Kanisa hii iko dal kabisa, kwa nini? You have not read the mood. The problem is not them, it is you. On what note do you want to begin them? Even if it's a political rally, if you go to a meeting and you start blaming members of the meeting on failures, they will withdraw. But when FCPA Giles Ringara goes and tells his heads of department, we took our report to the ministry and it was thrown back at us. I personally want to take responsibility. I take responsibility. Now let's look at what happened. Then the officers will now individually be saying, but I think I contributed to this failure. But you exclude yourself and tell them, nyinyi ndio mmefanya haya makosa. But where were you to provide leadership? So it's this idea of how people fail. I'm assuming that I'm using my Igire. Emotional intelligence sets apart good leaders. What do you say about that leader? What type of leader is that? What leader? This is a very caring. Mvua inanyesha na hata paka nguruwe hata kondoo anaifunika kwa mwavuli. Sisi hata raia mkitembea nje wakubwa huwa wanafunikwa na mwavuli na sisi tunanyeshewa. Tumekuwa na mfano mzuri hivi karibuni. Rais Hakainde Hichilema wa Zambia ameenda kuhudhuria sherehe ya askari special forces graduating and it started the training for 3 hours. The man was inspecting a guard of honor and addressing a meeting. He has designed suits. Nobody covered him with an umbrella. He said because the askaris were also being rained on. Why should it be him alone? It's about a leader. A leader who has, this person demonstrates empathy. Next. What then is this thing called emotional intelligence? So now I want you to be hooked so that you don't tell me about the time. Emotional intelligence is the capacity. Can I be protected? This is now harassment. Emotional intelligence is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. You can come to a meeting and people are very emotional. How do you cool them down? Because they have feelings. Something has annoyed them. Today, the president has issued a statement this afternoon and said, my brother Raila has a major role to play in the management of the affairs of this country. I want to engage so that we can together develop this country. Please, I'm calling upon you to reconsider the demonstrations on Tuesday. You can't tell wewe mkienda kwa barabara mtaona they have emotions. How do you manage the emotions of those others around you? How do you also manage your own emotions? Emotional intelligence, according to Daniel Coleman, is that capacity of recognizing your own feelings. Mami, I can see you and say, this is a beautiful mama. But I hesitate to tell you because this could be somebody's wife. I have emotions. Those emotions that I'm attracted to you. But do I have to talk to every woman I am attracted to and tell her, nimekupenda? That ability to contain those emotions. I am angry at you. But to say, miaka hii yangu, bali nimefikia umbali, nimetoka, nimeona mkono wake, ndio maana ninasema, yeye ni happiness. That ability to withhold what was likely to be an outburst is what emotional intelligence is all about. Understanding your emotions and the emotions of those others around you as you relate. Because you bring your emotions, I have my emotions. If it's not managed very well, we shall have conflict. Next slide. This is another definition. Imepotea. Peter Salve and Jack Meyer say it is the ability to perceive emotions, to access and generate emotions. Like when we go acting in a drama, and I want all of you to cry, and you all cry with me, I have actually generated emotions so as to assist thought. When I say, ladies and gentlemen, imagine, just imagine, when this child was just about to be saved, the person who had plunged himself into the river to save the child was grabbed by a crocodile. You know, I'm able to generate emotions so that I create the spirit of empathy in you to understand emotions and emotional meanings and to reflectively regulate emotions in ways that promote emotional and intellectual growth. While we have those things, how do we manage it? Particularly when it comes to relationships. Do we leave your anchor to help to strain our relationship today over one small thing? How do you contain it? Next, there's another one, then I'll stop. It's an array of non-cognitive capabilities, competencies, and skills. It's about the mind that influence one's ability to succeed in coping with environmental demands and pressures. There is what we call the Reuben-Baon scale that we can use to measure emotions. Go to the next one. People can read this because, by the way, this thing will be given to you. This presentation will be given to you. Go to the next slide. Next one. Next. Leaders prime good feelings in those they lead, create positive resonance. You know, when I tell you, hey, that paper you did, it made me feel proud. How do leaders use emotional intelligence to create the spirit of performance among people? That is what this is. That we have nature that is inherited, but nature is environmental. So emotional intelligence, we're talking about the environment, right? How do we make people develop this? Now, there are critical competencies you require. Personal competence, the need for self-awareness. Arrogant, very proud person. Self-regulation and management will be about personal competence. Then we have social competence, about social awareness. The audience I have is basically women. The audience I have is Muslim. The audience I have is a particular cultural group. These things could be very sensitive to them. I don't have to tell them here. Social relationship, if I belittle women and my audience is majorly women, then I am very low on social relationship management. Next slide, we have what we call personal competence. This is just expounding that personal competence and self-awareness. I'm not saying you run away. When you get to slide number 21, you just stop. You have no. Personal competence is about emotional awareness. I'm normally very emotional. When you come to these matters, I normally want to withdraw. What are your strengths? The ability to say what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Accurate self-assessment is about personal competence that is part of emotional intelligence. Next, you have the question of transparency, locus of control. You know, people who are very transparent have something to do with their level of emotional, personal competence. They are not afraid. Some people write a paper and they fear somebody else having a look because they think it's inadequate. It's about your personal competence, self-awareness. The question of initiative, I think we shall make it. This thing will work. We shall be successful. Then you have adaptability, just run through. Social competence, empathy, influence. There are many things about social. So you're talking about personal awareness and social awareness, or the social competencies that you require for us to say you have emotional intelligence. Move. We have a scale that is used to measure emotional intelligence, the barrel model of emotional intelligence that looks at the intrapersonal and interpersonal competencies, and they can be measured. Move to the next one. You can see what I'm now. You see what I'm being done to do. Go to the next. You master of ceremony. No, don't go there. You go that last one. I want to stop there. That when you have self-awareness, which includes emotional self-awareness, self-regard, reality testing. People have inadequacies. You get to a place and every new person who comes seems to convince you. You think they are better than you. Low self-esteem. So that's self-awareness. How do you create a positive image of yourself? That's self-awareness plus coping skills, impulse control, stress tolerance, problem-solving capabilities, flexibility are related to interpersonal skills of empathy. These things will be present when you have empathy, you have assertiveness. Excuse me, sir, CEO. I think while you are the CEO, on this particular matter, I don't think I'll take the blame because I have a written explanation of this matter that was submitted to your office. And there's an advisory in writing from you about this particular matter. So I do not think in this meeting I will take responsibility. That is assertiveness. I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude. I have done a policy brief for you. And on that policy brief, you advised we take this action. And that's the action we took. We cannot go back and ask me to take responsibility. I would have taken responsibility if my advisory is what informed the decision. Assertiveness then becomes very critical for us. So when you have this, you can predict effectively. People who have empathy, people who have social skills, and people who are assertive are likely to have very good interpersonal relations because the people you deal with have a boundary. They know who you si mtu wa kuendewa rahisi. They define a dividing line. Wanajuanga hii hatupiti kwa huyu tutokosana. Huyu tunafikanga hapa. So when you are assertive, you have very good social skills and you have empathy. It is possible for us then to manage our relationships. Somebody who has those characteristics can manage the conflict that would normally take place in yourself. Whether those of you who work in accounts, should I steal or not? FCPA, Charles Ringera, the accountant. You can imagine the ethics of the accountants. If the accountants found you have put money, your hand into money, is removable from the role. So the idea that we have a code of conduct that forbids me from this, prohibits you from doing this. I am a church elder. Ndio mzee wa kanisa mimi. Kamsichana kakipita hapa kazuri hivi. Nikakatia au nisikakatie? Nikatie au nisimkatie? Nimkatie? Amesema nimkatie. Nipite naye. Anasema sasa mtu mwenyewe amekileta kwangu nisipite naye. What would that do to my image as a church elder? The decision about whether I should or not is dependent on my level of emotional intelligence. Am I able to manage? We make claims. I went to Kampala to represent the ministry at one time at the SDG conference. And I was invited by Yuntesa. Yuntesa was paying for my air ticket and my DSA in Kampala. My then minister had told me, Simon, apply for a DSA here. Should I or should I not? Si nafasi nzuri. Wanipeko pesa wapi? Kampala, tena nipateko hapa kwetu. What makes us decide not to double claim DSA is your level of emotional intelligence. Should I or should I not? My brothers die and leave children. Shauri yao, kama wako chukua insurance shauri yao. But what is it that makes me take them? We are in a meeting and you come and bash me. Everybody is talking negatively about me. And I can decide to keep quiet in that meeting for how many hours? 2 hours. What is it that makes me keep quiet? Just show the next one, then I conclude. Emotional intelligence, particularly for leadership, is critical in the empowerment of people around you. How do you empower people? Benis Nanus says, leadership is not much the exercise of power itself as the empowerment of others. These leaders lead by pulling rather than pushing, by inspiring rather than ordering. You see, how do you come to a level where you inspire people? It's because of your level of emotional maturity. And how do you get people to get excited? How do pastors like Mackenzie, Pastor Mackenzie, and Pastor Ezekiel, how do they make people run to them? How do they inspire? They know where to touch. Wale ambao mmepepa misiko mzito na mmeumia katika maisha yenu, Bwana yuko hapa. Bwana ana suluhu. Suluhu iko katika hili kanisa. Njooni kwangu nyote ambao those things, inspiring rather than ordering, creating achievable though challenging expectations and rewarding progress is all about emotional intelligence. By enabling people to use their own initiative and experiences rather than denying or constraining their experiences and actions. I want to conclude out of those many slides I have that the ability to manage your emotions and the emotions of those around you is what emotional intelligence is all about. And is normally for purposes, first of all, of improving relations with the people you work with, and even for you, improving yourself. Because when you not have very good emotional skills, you will now develop things like low self-esteem, aggressiveness. You become aggressive because you think if they can't listen to you, you have to do it physically. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you sympathize with my situation, but I believe I have communicated. Can you give me a clap? This does not allow me to express who I am, but you have forced me to now appear like that. That's about a reputational risk.
Thank you very much. Asante sana. Let's give better hands, please. Mr. Ngote, it has been a very busy and tough 2 days for these ladies and gentlemen. And they have shown great resilience and emotional intelligence. Especially to me, especially toward me. I think I've really pushed the boundaries a number of times. and they've shown great resilience and emotional intelligence. Jipigeni makofi tafadhali. You have done well. And now we want to just have a look at the way forward, resolutions and way forward. What are we taking home from this conference? What kind of a future are we looking forward to? And what are we going to be doing over the next 2 years before our next meeting? I would like to invite our CEO, FCPA, Charles Fringera, to help us with that. Karibu. You want to do a little stretch as we wait? I'm the stretching guy. Please, let's rise for a minute. Nothing new at this point. Let's do our high five. Where we started is where we are ending. So, hands up. High five to the front, a big one. All right, we are turning our bodies to the right. Bodies only, not your feet, all right? This way, I'm doing. All right, a big high five to the right. Great. We're turning our bodies to the left now. And a big high five there. Nice, thank you so much. Please have your seats.
No, it's okay. Okay. Thank you, David. And Simon, thank you. Once again, thank you very much for always stimulating us in regard to the soft and spoken issues. I think we are clearer on how do we treat one another. I am standing between you and either your departures or dinners or whatever it is. We started with over 200 people. I'm only seeing about 20 of us here. And now we are anywhere less than 70 or thereabout. That tells you fatigue is real. And the 2 days that we have been here, I think have been quite engaging. I think one of the key things, and the PS commented, is quite a packed program. How many of us feel that way? Is it too packed? Close. Okay. Yeah, it's one of the areas that we'll be requesting the committees who organize for these things to look at how do we make it more efficient. And maybe there's a way we can make it more efficient. But of course, do know that the extra days cost money, so we must be able to, the same money. I like what His Excellency, when we met him the other day, said, if school fees has never been increased for the last 30 years, since 1989 for university, at 16,000, who tells you it is the government of William Ruto that is going to increase it? What does that tell you? It's the same resources. It is prudent usage of those resources. And we want to believe that that is what we shared today. The last 2 days, we will be able, if you can be able to practice back again at home. You must have listened to the PS. She was quite guarded on a number of things that the ministry is doing from a policy perspective. We are heavily engaging the executive. And just like the president promised last Saturday, I think in a week or two, those will be announced and we will be knowing the way forward. Some of the issues that we have discussed today and I think are under consideration that we'll be looking at are listed there. Maybe I will not go one for each of what we discussed. But of course, everybody is aware that we have a funding gap emanating, just like the chairman was saying, from the budget cuts that we have had since COVID period started, having lost about 6.1 billion Kenya shillings. And therefore, it is important for us to start thinking differently in terms of how we resource mobilize. And I think resource mobilization was one of the key factors that we challenged institutions of higher learning to continue looking at what are the opportunities. I think for me, when we give the perspective of the asset-backed securitization process, the faculty of business will know exactly what we are talking about this, but we don't expect universities to get into this ABS process. But if you look at the ABS process that we are trying to do, as higher education loans board, does not necessarily mean universities can do exactly the same. But then if you look at University of Nairobi, for example, look at the kind of asset they have. What are they doing with those assets? Are they sweating enough? And look at rent in Spring Valley for a professor who is seated on their house is paying a rent of 20,000. The rent of that house is 300,000. So is it the high time maybe to release it and then pay the professor his full, house allowance that is commensurate with his title? So those are the things we want you to think about. Even this one of ABS for help is something that we thought about what we can be able to do. I think COVID has taught us a different way of automation of our institutions, including digitalization of learning processes. It's one of the key recommendations that the Economic Advisory Council of His Excellency the President has put forward strongly for universities. How do you deliver learning digitally rather than the face-to-face of the student? I still know that a number of our universities have experiencing, next please, are experiencing challenges of funding. And therefore, that might be a challenge of how to be able to do digitalization. But in the long run, I think it's a better way of looking at how we can be able to do our business. I think the PS has challenged us in terms of being sustainable in regard to the resources that we manage on behalf of government, on behalf of the stakeholders or sponsors of our various universities. I think we would need to get interest and of how do we do that? How do we diversify our revenues? Is it only school fees that we're supposed to look at? The way we are managing our grant system, research grant, for example, is something that we are still questioning whether that is the best way. And we are not saying that the lecturers or the people who actually go and win those grants should not then be rewarded. They shouldn't be rewarded properly. But then let's have a mechanism of how to share that money. Commercialization of research and innovations that we continue to do. I think University Fund Board challenged us of how we are going to go around it. I'm looking forward to hear whether those proposals could be coming, from at least one or two universities, so that the other universities can be able to copy what is moving, what they are able also to produce. Academic excellence, I think that has been canvassed quite a lot as we sat here and during the 2 days on integrity of exams and also of academic papers that we have there. And this niching of universities, so that we don't have every university doing everything. The initial intention of the Big Seven initially, which was set up, it was basically out of a niche. But today, everybody is doing medicine, everybody is doing law, and you call yourself a University of Agriculture and Technology, and but then inside there you are doing your law. So should the Technical University of Mombasa or Kenya be doing medicine or medical technology? Those are the questions that you need to ask for. Now, PPPs, and mainly on hostels, I think is something that we heard even from the National Treasury. As much as government has made it very easy, it is still a big challenge for our universities to be able to utilize that aspect of PPPs. Quality of education requires funding to drive economy, since the education takes about 25%. Actually, to be precise, education takes 25.6% of our national budget. If what is being discussed now and the education reforms goes through, we should see that number moving almost to 28% of the national budget. We must be responsible for Wanjiko to tell her what we have done with 28% of the national budget, if actually that national budget comes through. The role of parents, guardians, and sponsors to funding of higher education, I think, was re-emphasized. I think we have heard clearly from the fifth administration, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, they are very clear that education is participatory by all the parties, from household to government to community. When you do Arambis, that's a community trying to educate a child, and they say a child is educated by the village. So it's important for us to see what piece do we contribute in regard to this. I think we are excited about our conclusion of the HELB Agenda 2019-2023, which is the current strategic plan that we're implementing. And now we are preparing ourselves for the next journey. It is interesting that we have the fifth administration coming into place, and we have also our new strategic plan, which we hope should be out maybe by August, September there. We are only delayed because of this issue of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms, We are not sure which way it will go because you remember there is a rooming manager there of HELB, UFB, University Fund, and also the TVET Fund. So we are not very sure where it is going, and therefore that is what is delaying us in terms of concluding that. But we'll continue to hear your views. I was the president of Garissa saying that they have, is it the president of Garissa who's saying they have heard about, we have a strategic plan and they want to get involved. The questions you're answering today, on that bitley that Colin sent here, is basically for you to get involved. Say what you want, even colors for HELB. Say you'll get nauseated by the yellow and green colors of HELB and tell us which other colors do you want. That is part of public participation in terms of what you are doing. FOs. I think I saw the FO of Kisii was representing the FOs. That MOU, please, let's see how we are going to do it. How many FOs are still remaining here? Let me see. Niko na kaujumbe fulani nimetuma ule mtu wa Kisii of something I'm running for this year in our association, in our institute. So please pick up that message from him. But what is important for us is this MOU, because unless we go as per MOU, then we will have a challenge of how to implement our plans moving forward. I think the issue of exemptions, that you're going to leave to us. We have had that proposal coming from you, and actually the PS also commented about it. So let's see how we will deal with Treasury. We have already written to Treasury, by the way, in the past, but they were not very, they didn't receive the idea very well. Of course, tax exemptions is something that is really, they have realized there's a lot of leakage in terms of tax exemptions. The PS talked about vertical mobility, and that is what we want to encourage, so that this not doing exams at the right time so that you can be able to move to the next level is something, as the ministry expands pathways of academic progress. I think let's see that also, where to our Kwame, where we are, and that will be quite key as we move forward. The issue of PWDs, and I think yesterday, Diego of the council told us what we are doing with the council of PWDs. I think James also commented about it. James is our appointment in terms of disability mainstreaming, and therefore he talks a lot with the lenders to see that they are actually facilitating that. But in particular, 2 weeks ago, we didn't put on the MyGov in regard to this advertisement for PWDs. It doesn't mean that if you get help, you can't get this fund also. It will just top up from what you're getting, because we know that as a PWD, you require to be supported more because you require more, whether it is equipment that facilitate you to do the learning or what else you need to do moving forward. COOPS indeed promise us that they are committed to equitable placement process, and I think the PS saying that you should not be worried because we are starting that on 1st of May. James talked about the work we are doing with the Islamic scholars in regard to Sharia-compliant product for Higher Education Loans Board. So we are still working with them. Most of them actually come from Jamia Mosque, and they are seasoned finance experts, and they do a lot of Islamic financing. We'll be looking at how do we work with them to be able to get everybody on board, because our idea is that leaving no one behind, particularly in the next strategic plan that we'll be looking at leaving nobody behind. And we know these institutions have quite some good chunk of money that we can be able to utilize moving forward. The President's commitment in terms of funding crisis of universities is clear. I will tell you, we went to see him maybe 3 weeks ago. And as we went to see him, we had crunched all the numbers, the models. We had a funding gap of universities still at 35%. So we knew that if you charge a student school fees of 100,000, we went to him with 65,000. We were able to raise 65,000 between HELB and the scholarship of UFB. We were carrying 65,000. But then he went and said, this bullet must be beaten by somebody. He doesn't want to see a funding gap. So he sent us back again, and he said that was lazy thinking. We went back again. We have worked out now a model of 100%. And that's why we are saying you'll be announcing it soon. And that was through the recommendation of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. So I think very soon, for sure, I'm certain, if that program comes through, I think this crisis of financial crisis of universities will be a thing of the past. We have developed an institutional portal for data sharing. I heard about CFO saying that FO said that we'll be emailing. Now, we have a portal where you can actually download this. I wish actually the guy of FO of UN was here. I found them doing a very interesting job of when they download the schedules, the payment schedules, in terms of receipting, nobody sit down. They put that as CSV file in their receipting system, and they actually their receipt as it updates student account, straight away. Let's learn from one another. If Nairobi did a mistake in doing that, but they are now succeeded, why should you do the same mistake? Just, comply, doing exactly what they have done and moving it forward. Alumni, even for us alumni, not only for universities, and is Johnson still around? Johnson Irene. Now I think he's in the Dean's office, but previously he was running the alumni of University of Nairobi, and we worked with him very closely in terms of help loan recoveries, and we have seen tremendous, support from them in terms of reaching out to the alumni and emphasizing on them being able to pay. I think there's a project also we started with JQuat, the architectural school alumni, again, and they're already practicing now, those architects. So again, that really helped us in terms of reaching out to the beneficiaries. We are collaborating with other government agencies in regard to issuing of loans. So it is not, it's something that we are trying to deepen. We now work, disburse loans for KRA, training fund, for the ministry where Angote was working. They give us the TRF, training revolving fund, that is government. We work with KEWI, we work with KIMC, we work with KMTC, we work with CASNEB. So we're working with a number of these government agencies. The challenge is that there are many of them and they're bound by their own laws. So we look at an agency where there are students, talk to them, look at where we need to tinker with the law, change the law, and then be able to implement the aspect of that disbursement. Just like I commented about your participation in the next strategic planning cycle, 2024-2028, we are looking forward to see what kind of input you have given us, and we can assure you what makes sense will actually find will find its way in the book. And as we concluded with Simon about EI, which accounts for between 85 to 90% of success of your work, I think it is important, and we always bring thought leaders like Simon or people who talk about mental health, so that then, as you battle on your own corner, don't imagine you are the only one who is battling. Even the president is suffering the same, even the CEO, even the VC, they are all suffering the same. The question is, how do you make best of what you can be able to do? And that brings us to the end of what we brought, what we thought needed to be covered. In case we have forgotten anything else, you're already still on the linkage. I think, Collins, we still have an opportunity for them to drop comments there. Yeah, so you can drop comments there on where we need to improve on ourselves. To our students, we appreciate you because we are here for you. You are our customer that we think about. You are the center of what exactly we do. And I was very excited when you took the PS, you almost carried her. It's only that she was wearing a skirt. I noticed you wanted to lift her up. And that's the spirit. We want to come nearer to Wanjiko, to your customer. That is part and parcel of citizenry service, which is well founded in our Constitution 2010. For the managers, the deans, the registrars, and the FOs, our focus is mainly how do we manage these young ones, so that even as we leave the scene, they are able to take up what we are doing. I was very excited with what Madam from Aga Khan came and told me, that actually as government we have a gap. When they finish Form 4, who kind of midwives them to the process of getting to college, getting to careers, advising them. I do know as COOPS, as HELB, we are doing quite a lot. And COOPS actually has a bigger mandate on it. They engage the secondary schools. But then one of the key things, I sit in the board of COOPS, one of the key things we're thinking about in COOPS, we have 12,000 secondary schools. The best we are doing is about 50 schools in a year. So how many years will COOPS take to go to all the 12,000? And meanwhile, the schools are also growing. So I think it is important to see how we are going to reach out there. I know as HELB is only because of limitation of resources. It's something that we had actually put in that strategic plan of managing them as they come to borrow. This is the first time this kid from school put some 50,000 shillings in their pocket. So how do they use that 50,000 shillings in their pocket? In the days of Simon and Gote, when they got that boom, straight away, what they did. The music systems they bought, but is that relevant today? Is music existing in those jukeboxes that they were buying? Maybe no. So what other alternatives are there? How can they be able to prudently use those resources that we actually give them? And with those very many remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I want to pronounce this workshop officially, this conference officially closed, and hope to see you in 2025, God willing and God keeping us during that period. Back are you again to organize.
I think the signs are everywhere that we have come to the end. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizing team, thank you so much. I'd like to just try and mention everybody by name, and then when we come to the very end, when I've mentioned everybody, we will all stand up and give a proper round of applause. And then Dr. Noor Mohammed, the Dean of Students from Garissa University, will give us a closing prayer, right? Do you still have a notepad in front of you? Do you have one? Do you have one? Is there a blank page? Just check. Do you have a blank page in your notepads? I'd like you to please, before you leave this place, write a letter to you, assuming that you will receive this letter 6 months from now. And then, just write in that letter, for example, Dear David, address it to yourself. And then, in that letter, write the things from this consultative forum that you cannot afford to forget. All right? That is my closing activity. I just can't stop giving activities, man. It's terrible. The technical working committee that put this together, thank you so much. The Higher Education Loans Board, HELB, from the board, the Chief Executive Officer, I call him the Chief Epiphany Officer, and you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, innovative leadership. The management and staff of HELB, thank you so much. To our speakers who have been so kind to share so much content and have been very patient with a not so emotionally intelligent MC. Thank you so much. The university management of all the universities presented here, all the 78 of them, and the traveling teams, including those of you who've stayed with us to the very end, and not forgetting the student leaders. Thank you so much from the very bottom of our hearts. And before I move to the next theme, I have to request the teams from the universities, please remain our very good ambassadors wherever you go, from all the corners of this country, in helping us drive efficient loan recovery so that we can keep empowering more dreams, right? Thank you. To our sponsors, Safaricom, KCB Group, the Cooperative Bank, Kingdom Bank, and Equity, thank you so much for making this possible. To our very good rapporteurs, we know that no content that was given here is lost. Thank you so much. To our service providers, from the team that is doing live streaming, to the team that did the decor, the audiovisual team, all all the technical guys, and Duncan, this guy that I kept sending all over the room. Thank you so much. God bless you.
And the MC as well.
Okay, thank me. Thank you, Collins. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Noor to please come and give us a prayer, a closing prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, do have safe travels back. God bless.
Thank you, Mara MC. I assure you, you have very high emotional intelligence. Thank you, Bana Chief Executive. And thank you very much. Allow me to recite the prayer first in Arabic. It will be very short, then I will translate in English. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, most merciful, all praise is for Allah, Lord of all worlds, the most compassionate and the most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us along that straight path, the path of those you have blessed, not those you are displeased with them, or those who are astray. Amen.
For us, this is when our time starts. You have to enjoy it. This is the only time. For us, this is the only time we can have. Yes. There is always tension until it is over.
So that in future, this watch is still waiting for its owner. There's a wristwatch here, still waiting for its owner to claim. In a highly globalized world, competition is stifling by the second. Corporations are scrambling for the finest talent. Nations are positioning for advantage, and people fight to thrive. Education is the ultimate advantage. No, the ultimate disadvantage.
If somebody denies you education, they have denied you everything. But if somebody gives you education, they have given you everything except a ticket to heaven.
In Kenya, everything is at stake for thousands of students unable to raise money for their education. Will they become the next victims of an economic dispensation that is swallowing the unprepared?
Help each other to innovate on the go. Exactly.
We have areas of improvement, especially on this type.
My father passed away when I was in standard 7, so I did not have somebody that could support to further my studies. So after 18 years, when I heard the former president, Mwai Kibaki, declaring free secondary, I felt an urge to join secondary. I used to drop out of school probably 1 year to look for the upkeep of my family first.
In Kijabe, I came in 2015. So I used to work like a housekeeper. And then that's why I came to my dream to join School of Nursing. And I didn't even have any money to join the school. And the school fees was 263,800. And I used to be paid only like 12,000. So I was wondering where will I get money.
You know, by the time I finished my secondary school education, I had a balance of almost 100,000. So I had to work so that I can pay the balance. In fact, I was working at a workshop whereby I was paid 200 shillings per day. So I used to save that money to reduce the pay balance that I had.
I had fee challenges because I had just joined KU and was thinking of calling off my studies.
The vision to sustain and improve the historical advantage that Kenya has enjoyed over the years is fueled by continuous development of human capital. The progress of individuals like Isaac, Boaz, Samson, Callistus, and millions of others like them. The vision has, through the history of our nationhood, been shouldered by the Higher Education Loans Board, HELB, a state corporation whose mandate is to source for funds and provide loans, scholarships, and bursaries to Kenyans studying in recognized institutions of higher learning.
The vision of HELB is to be able to finance everyone that is seeking a loan to advance themselves by way of higher education.
Over the years, transition from secondary to tertiary education has greatly improved. In addition, over 1,500 TVET colleges have been established in the country over the past decade. These developments have led to increased demand for higher education finance, with government financing fully stretched.
We have a funding gap of about 4.9 billion. If actually we don't get a form of financial intervention this year only, we are looking at about 94,000 students who have already expressed interest in terms of being funded, going without any funding for this year.
At the Higher Education Loans Board, the thought of young people missing out on education, the possibility of lives being wasted and families getting trapped in a vicious cycle has led us to reimagine our vision of universal financing for higher education in Kenya. Since 2013, we have mobilized 1.5 billion shillings from 40 partners who share in this vision.
So we started with a small partner fund of USAID, and we were trying to get into a space that we have never been before, that is educating the healthcare workers, that is the nurses who are, work behind the doctors, because for every doctor you require about 10 nurses.
Help of these partners, we have made it possible for over 50,000 more students to attain higher education over the past 9 years. Our resource mobilization initiatives target specific economic sectors guided by various economic policies. Some of the sectors for which we have mobilized resources include health, maritime, legal, communication, finance, engineering, and water and sanitation. In the health sector, Afya Elimu Fund was set up to increase the number of middle-level health workers in the country.
These students, once they graduate, they're available, as I've said, to provide services for health work, for the health services in some of the remote areas. Talking about the northern frontier, the coastal region, where really we have had shortages for a long time in the country. And so with their presence there, it has really helped, especially when it came to COVID. We saw a demand for health workforce in some of these regions, and the pool was already available. The health workers who had graduated from Afya Elimu were already available.
In addition to Afya Elimu Fund, medical training institutions are also partnering with us, establishing funds that enable a smooth academic journey for their students.
When we started the college in 2012, we already had a problem knowing that the community we're in might not be able to access or be able to come to this college. So when we made help in 2014, for us it was connection the first time, and we made the details. And I remember the following year when we had our graduation, we invited them to come, and we handed them a check of 1.2 million shillings. And from that humble beginning, right now we have, I would say, a portfolio with the help of about 24 million shillings, which we are hoping that in that revolving fund, it will be able to help more and more students.
We looked at ways where we can still have these economically challenged students and still meet their obligation in terms of settling the school fees, because it's needed. We have to give them and use money to train them. So we sought help with help, and so far so good. So many students have benefited from the fund, and we can only look forward for a brighter future, brighter partnership.
We partnered with the Kenya Maritime Authority to set up the Maritime Education and Training Scheme, or METS Fund, a loan product covering academic, proficiency, and competency courses. Together, we are empowering a pool of local experts for the blue economy.
To achieve this national goal, we must undertake a lot of partnerships. There are governments that have been in place, and one of the government structure under training is creation of HELP, which is handling the different capacity building in the country in different ways. And the maritime aspect was not covered under that program. So we suddenly decided that for us to support Kenyans,